Welcome to the Don Pod, the supporters podcast. Here's your hosts, Sam and Nate.
3, 2, 1, yeah.
The Dons win big under Friday Night Lights, coming back from a horror week in round 4 to beat the Bulldogs by 29 points. Welcome back to the Don Pod. I'm Sam. I'm joined by Nathan this morning even. How are you, Nathan?
Oh, I am super this morning, Sam, because we are winners.
Back in the winners column.
Back in the W's.
Just the second time since 2014 that we've beaten the Western Bulldogs. And not only that, in that time, since 2014, they've averaged 104.3 points for them to our 61. So to keep them to 67 and to score 96 ourselves, it's a very good turnaround. Essendon 15 goals, 96, defeating the Western Bulldogs 9-13, 67.
Did you call them the Western Bulldogs?
Bulldogs, yeah.
Bulldogs. I like that, yep.
I think with a list with that much
talent... I don't
talent...
know if I've heard that one before, yeah.
They're in trouble, if I'm honest. Yeah, too much talent. Too much.
Well, I would love to jump into that conversation just quickly. Like, how would you feel as a Bulldog supporter right now? I know we did this with St Kilda, but how would you feel as a Bulldog supporter right now? Like,
we talked about
players
with St Kilda. We talked about where they'd expect to be, and if you're a Bulldog supporter, you expect to be higher than St Kilda, right?
Yep.
So, yeah, worse, really, and it's not just playing the game, winning games of football. It's retaining your talent. Because English is out of contract.
Yep.
And I'm sure we'll have a lot of money being thrown his way if they don't have
WA
English.
clubs.
They lost Jordan Sweet last year. So...
And they drop a guy Caleb Daniel. So, and, there's a few fringe players there that you're thinking, like Lob. I don't know how old he actually is, but he could probably go to a fourth club, really. Like, he's a guy that could roll into another club and help them towards, I don't know, premierships, like that we talk about a lot.
Yeah, it suits that team that needs that one particular player. We'll talk more about the Dogs.
He could easily go to Collingwood.
Yes.
They could find a very good role for him.
We'll talk about the Dogs more a bit later on because I think that's worth talking about. For now, we need to celebrate the Sash winning all 4 quarters in a game of football for the first time this season, for the first time since round 11 last year against West Coast.
Wow.
We only did it once last year. We did it twice in 2022 and we did it twice in 2021. So just the 6th time since the start of 2021 that we have won all 4 quarters in a game of football. Now, I have no comparisons to other teams and how they go about it. I'm sure it's normal to drop a quarter here and there, but it's only 6 times in at least 60 games, 70 games probably. It's a big stat.
Yeah, it was an amazing game for us in that we controlled big chunks of it, as opposed to other games like this year, where like the St Kilda game, we were out of that.
Where we were just hanging around.
Yeah, we were hanging around, and then I felt like we just got it together at the right stage. Port Adelaide, obviously, we were flogged for 3 quarters. We were pretty good for a quarter. Like, that was okay. The Hawthorn game was, it's Hawthorn. And the Sydney game was probably a half, you'd call it, where we played good footy. In this game, we played 4 quarters.
We were pretty consistently in it against Sydney, just also consistently not quite good enough. We were never really out of that game.
But one of our strategies really failed, and that was how to defend from our forward 50. That just did not work in that game. Whereas in other games, that's worked a bit, maybe even a lot better.
Yes. I'll get some numbers, which it's just dawned on me that I haven't written some of those in. So nice proofreading there from you, co-host. Goal scorers, Langford 3, Jones, Stringer, Duursma 2, although Stringer, Langford should be the other way around.
I agree. That was very cheeky of Langford, wasn't it?
It was awkward. It was like second-hand cringe. Martin, Gresham, Goldstein, Durham, Davey Jr., Caldwell, 1 each. Leading disposals, not a high possession game. Merritt 27 led the way, and then Nick Martin 25, and then McGrath Caldwell 23. So dropped away fairly quickly in terms of disposals. Which, when you win by 5 goals, who cares?
No, but it was a very interesting. Like the highest possession getter was only maybe 28 or something, wasn't it?
For both
From,
teams. Yeah, 28,
I think-
sure. Yep.
For law, which is not. That's very
It's very low, especially when they've got McRae. I mean, we'll talk about Bontempelli and a certain King that played on him.
And even now, Nick Martin's been average. He would have been averaging over 30 this year easily.
It is interesting to put in perspective our comments and a lot of people's comments on Nick Martin against St Kilda having the 44, and we went, yeah, well, wasn't really impactful. And then the first man on our list that we have to talk about is Sam Durham, who had 21 touches, but for me was a clear best on ground.
Yeah.
Clear best.
And that's what we talked about at the time with Nick Martin, is that it doesn't really matter the possession sometimes. Like, that's great, you get 44, that's awesome, but it doesn't. Modern footy isn't about that anymore, whereas it used to back in my day, if you had 30 or 40 touches, you were the dominant player easily on the ground. Yeah.
So big Sammy Durham, 21 touches, 12 of them contested, 6 centre clearances, 6 marks, 4 tackles. Was just able to twice. He burst from the centre and hit Jake Stringer lace out. I think it was the first or second quarter where Stringer missed a lot. And then our last, and that was a beautiful kick because that was across
someone put the
field.
moz on him. Yep.
Yeah, someone did. And then in the fourth quarter, our last goal that Stringer kicked, again, bursting out of the middle and hit him on the chest on the near side. Just an incredible game. And then critically, I looked at it more at halftime. Me and you were watching it together like this, just on separate screens.
Yep.
I looked at Bontempelli's numbers at halftime and went, I'd love to compare it. So I actually wrote them down. I thought, I just expected him to come out second half and destroy us.
Yeah.
And, it's that burnt Essendon supporter inside of me.
But
it went the other way. I'm not quite sure what the third quarter stats were, but Bontempelli in the last quarter had 1 disposal.
And 2 tackles.
Yeah. Sam Durham had 5 disposals. 4 of those were clearances. And he kicked a goal himself. Now,
if you'd asked me at the start of this game, who do you put to Bontempelli to shut him down, I would have thought we don't have a player. I would have said I don't think we have someone that can do that.
Just trust that you can win your own footy.
Yeah, I thought, well, we're just going to have to let him get his 30 and hope that we can go against that, but wow.
It was. I saw some stats on Twitter. It was his worst game since, in terms of like ranking points for a long time, and we talk about it so much because of the player that Bont is, and that we know he is. So, and at the start of the year against Hawthorn, Sam Durham was in that first centre bounce, and we went, huh?
Yeah,
what?
We were. And to be honest, I think you and I are a bit. I don't know, but
no. But guess what?
But he's clearly showed, and he hit 50 games a couple of games ago. I remember there was a banner for him. I think it was him.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. So, and that's about when players start to, really develop that consistent sort of footy, like how we bag out Jones a bit, and we'll get to him later. But he still hasn't. He might have just got towards that number, but he's still a little bit away, I think. So we sort of maybe sometimes we need to step back on these players. Like I think we can be critical of
Jones has played
Kelly.
So
we can be critical of like Kelly's and Heppels because they're over 200 or 150
Should
games. Like, if they're playing consistently bad football, then you're like, well, come on.
That's my favourite thing about Durham, and it was against St Kilda as well in a tight game, kicked goals.
Yeah.
In the last quarter, both times. Sorry, there's just a horrendous noise outside. I've still got no idea what that was. Kicked goals in the last quarter of both games, critical moments, and he's able to hit the scoreboard. But you combine all that and then you do it against Marcus Bontempelli, and it's just tenfold.
And I think you can add to another real strength of his too is the running capabilities. Like he won our time trial this year, and I think he came second behind Redmond last year. So he's clearly the best runner at the club and probably a very elite runner in AFL. So that added to the midfield's capabilities and the way he goes about it, the way he cracks in, which we've always loved about him.
That was,
From his game one, we're like, well, I like the way he throws his body in. He's a bit like, I'm a bit reckless, bit like, no, I'll do anything for this club. And you really respect guys like that.
You do, and especially given his route into football. He was playing VFL for Richmond. He was a mid-season draft pickup
Mm.
for us. So again, another one of those ones that you sort of put in the Peter Wright category. Nothing to lose, cost us very little, and we've managed to turn into at this point in time, a very good footballer.
Well, him and Nick Martin have really
Mardo's even more so because he was supplemental.
Yeah, but I still like the both of them have come out of nowhere. Really, like I know one was playing VFL, the other one couldn't even get a game with West Coast. West Coast, I don't know what they were doing. And then it's still very impressive how we've seen, and it's funny because we often one of the things we worry about at Essendon is our ability to improve talent.
Yes.
Yet we can spot obviously talent. Like,
I would say we've improved. Durham, certainly.
100%.
Anyway, it's nice because, and we are critical sometimes of these decisions that get made. Kelly on a wing, for example. So to sit there and go, Jesus, Sammy Durham in the centre bounce at the start's a bit odd, and then go, no, okay, nailed it. Yeah. We'll eat our words there. The next man on my list is a recruit, one of the recruits from the off-season, Xavier Duursma, who, I'll be honest, again, against Hawthorn, I thought, this man's going to become a whipping boy. I just had a gut feeling that would happen. And no, so far from it. He has built just ever so slightly, game by game. 20 touches, a game high 13 marks, 2 goals. We got to see the arrow twice, which was great.
Which I mean, do.
First time, arrow into the, who was that?
John Cena. And then the second time was the arrow into the fist pump, which I absolutely adored. I like the fist pump. But the amount of times, I watched the replay Saturday morning, the amount of times he popped up in defence. That man must run harder than almost anyone on that side. He was everywhere. Not really reflected in tackle numbers or anything, but just work rate. He was all over the gaff. And that long set shot is just, it's so valuable. When the Bulldogs kicked, what did they kick? 9 goals, 13, and we've got a guy that can do that. Said that about Peter Wright before. It's so valuable. But our kicking this year has been phenomenal. Like our set shot kicking has been, it's best. I'm sure it's been the best we've, and I don't know if that's to do with like Rosa or, a couple of new people at the club that are involved in sort of like skills.
I will say that when we miss, it's normally out on the full, so that helps too.
Right, that's helped stats. Like Stringer's first
Stringer's
kick.
8-goal-1, and he kicked it out on the full. Didn't blemish the record.
One of the interesting things about Duursma too was that he's one of those guys at Port I'd seen play, and I knew because of the arrow, but I hadn't seen a lot of him. Like I don't
watch a lot of Port Adelaide. That's understandable.
I don't watch a lot of Port. They're not my favourite team. And when I saw a lot of the socials about him, where his supporters were really narky on him, like I don't think a lot of the Port Adelaide people were kind of happy to see him go. Right at the moment, I think we've had a great trade. When you think with Zerk Thatcher for Duursma, looks like we will be the winners out of that, because Zerk Thatcher, I think, is still a good player. I'm not hanging it on Zerk Thatcher there, but I think Zerk Thatcher's probably, I don't think he's got far to go to be about as best as he can be. Whereas Duursma, I think, could be a super, super talent.
It's a little bit apples and oranges.
Oh, of course it is. They're totally different players.
And the value of the player to the team is bigger for Port Adelaide because they were so desperate. I've watched Port a little bit. Obviously, we got to watch them last week. I didn't think BZT did a lot, but to be fair, he probably didn't have to do a lot.
We nearly busted his shoulder last night.
He did. I think the biggest thing about Zerk Thatcher at Essendon was he needed someone next to him. So now he's got Radigalia, now he's got Alia. He can just play his little third string game and be effective. Whereas with Essendon, and we'll talk about Jaden Laverde later, he had no support. So, I think...
Yeah, but I still think that...
But at the moment...
the fact that Zerk Thatcher was leaving, and from my understanding, we couldn't do anything about it. He was going. To have got Duursma out of that deal, to me, at the moment, seems like a great deal for us.
Big tick,
Yeah,
definitely. And we got a player we desperately...
We could have just walked away with pick 40 or whatever.
Yeah, exactly right. It'd be nice if we could get one of these two brothers as well. It sounds like his younger brother's going to be number 1 pick again, or top 5 at least this year.
Did you see him hugging what looked? I think it was the youngest brother who was about like 6 inches taller than him. I'm like,
we need to tank just so we can get this guy. And then we've got ammo then to throw at North for
to get the other one. Yeah,
that went.
I don't know. Don't ask me
The one that went to
names.
North
There's
anyway.
Duursma's. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
no,
quite
you
good. I
do
watched
have
him play at
trouble
North.
with your names, I know.
Yeah, he's quite good. The one at North. I've watched him play a few games. Like, oh, he's
Mhm.
talented. Like he just does a few things. You go,
I know. Anyway, very good game from the X. Fast becoming a fan favourite. It's funny how much you can hate a celebration or hate something when a player's at one club, but when he's at your club,
Love it.
we love it. See Jack Ginnivan as another example.
I don't know if I could love him at my
Oh,
club.
I would love a little bit of ratting in that forward line. Don't get me wrong.
The way he goes about it.
Yeah, no.
Anyway, we don't want to talk about that, Spud.
No. The next on my list is Harry Jones. Harold.
Harrietta.
Harold. Gone with Harold. 13 touches, 6 marks, 3 tackles, and 2 goals. Again, the stats won't really do him justice there. One of those tackles was a rundown chase after he'd put pressure on Bontempelli, got past him, and then tackled, I believe, Ed Richards.
Yep.
For holding the ball, and I think he kicked the goal from that.
Yes.
Again,
he's another thing though about him too. Just to jump in there, is he's a great set shot. Like we knew that from the first year.
Well, he had the yips, and then he went for a long time where he just didn't miss.
Yeah, he hit 14
he missed
straight
against Collingwood that time.
Yeah, that's right.
The goal after. Sorry. Still got no.
Why do you have to do that every time? You have to bring that one up.
He learnt, is what I'm trying to say there. He learnt, and he seems to be able to kick. But the most impressive thing is what we were so critical of. It's now the exact opposite. He's competing well in the air.
Yeah.
He's getting around the ground. He's able to take marks. 6 marks is, I think, considerably lower than his last 2 weeks.
Well, yeah, he didn't. I think he did 8 and 10 the other couple of weeks. Yeah,
he's been able to hit the scoreboard more this week. So 2 goals. I think he had 0 and 1. So it's perfect. And we now have an issue, or a slight issue, come Anzac Day when Peter Wright's available.
No.
I don't for a second think Peter Wright's not playing on Anzac Day, but selection becomes a little bit of a headache.
I think what this hopefully promotes is that, and there's Caddy too as another fish in the pond there to throw in, is that it might push us towards becoming a one ruck team in that I don't mind it if Peter Wright goes into the ruck for periods of time if we've got guys like Caddy and Jones who are marking and capable forwards. Mm-hmm. The problem always was before, it was only felt like Peter Wright could take a mark. Yeah. So when he went into the ruck, you're like, well, there's no one in the forward line to kick it to. So I think that would be my thought process, that Goldstein would get the boot, Draper would take the full-time ruck, and that one of those guys can come in. Even we saw Cox rucking a bit.
Yeah, that was bizarre when you got 2 rucking. Yeah, that was odd.
We were both confused by that. So we've got Goldstein and Draper in the team, and Coxie's taking some rucking out. So what's going on here, people? Is this a practice? Is we getting a little bit of test in for him? So one day we won't have them, and you'll need to do the job.
It was a bit weird.
Anyway, so that's my theory. And then you would have some really good forwards, some really key forwards.
Yeah. It's just nice. It's just nice to have that problem and that conversation around, well, how do we do it? How do we fit these guys in? Because Peter Wright's, again, I'm fairly certain going to play when he's available.
I'm fairly confident he comes back.
How do you fit that in? Yeah. Good segue onto my last one on the list here, and that is Todd Goldstein. And I only want to mention Goldie, and collectively I'll mention Draper in that as well. They had the colours lowered last week.
That's a polite way to say it. But
Soldo destroyed them. Yep. The entire midfield was destroyed, let's be real.
Yep.
But Goldie in particular came back well. 22 hit-outs. He had 12 touches. He managed to kick a goal from a free kick right at the start. But just got around the ground well. And as a combo, he and Draper won the battle convincingly against
English
of
again,
the best ruckman in the league.
English again, who had one disposal besides hit-outs in the last quarter. That again was fascinating to me. Like English, as you say, one of the best ruckmen in the competition at the moment. He just didn't put up a whimper in that last quarter. Like him and Bond. I don't know who they're playing next week, but they will be up for a challenge.
I actually had a look who they were playing next week, and I was like, "Oh, have fun with that."
Is it because
they're playing St Kilda? So
isn't that the battle of the teams that cannot get it together? Well, it's one premiership versus 2 premierships.
Look at us in our bloody
One
ivory
premiership
tower
versus
up here with 16, but
the
haven't done
crappest of the
anything
crap
for
teams.
20 years.
I mean, seriously, they're only a few premierships in front of fucking Gold Coast at the moment.
Oh, imagine GWS are a shot to be won this year. They'll be level
Yep.
with St Kilda. That's hilarious. Did you want to mention anyone in particular? I've covered off a few, but just before we...
I will say one, and we might lead into this. I don't know if it is the Kelly, who is a
Cal.
common basher of we are a common basher of his, I should say. It was great. It was just great to see him playing as a defender on a forward who, to be honest, has caused us some trouble.
I've got this.
The commentators were like, "Why are they booing Waitman?"
Yeah, and Richo got a text. I think he said later on in the call that that's the elimination final. They got long memories. And you're doing the guys diving headfirst into friggin' arms for free kicks. I do have some stats on this, and it's probably good that you mention it now. So I'll
go.
Jump forward a little bit.
No, that's fine. I think we're talking players. Let's talk players.
So Waitman's played 4 games against Essendon until Friday night. So 5 in total, but 4 before that. In those 4 games before, he kicked 11 goals too.
Yeah.
So nearly, 3 a game?
Yep.
Yeah, bit under.
No.
He hasn't lost to Essendon before Friday night. He had 10 touches and kicked a point.
Yeah, and they were nothing. Like he
had a couple of marks up the field, up the ground.
Yep.
He was not in threatening position.
He was in the midfield a couple of times, I reckon. He came out of a city clearance.
Give him some respect and say he didn't really play for free kicks.
No, he didn't. I'll agree with that. But it was just great to see Kelly put into a role where he belongs.
Bought him for.
Yeah, like I pray to some sort of a semblance of a God that he can stay in that role and not ever go back to a wing unless he runs up there one day following a forward. It's the only time he's allowed to be on the wing. It just doesn't work. He's not good enough to play in that role. And I still wonder, I don't have the stats to back it up, but I wonder in that second half if Nick Martin went back more towards a wing role. He seemed to be a lot higher up the ground when he was getting the ball. And the heat map that I had a look at for the second half showed there was a lot more possessions up the ground, but I don't know if that's, just the style of, halfback he's playing. So I guess next week will be a bit more of an indicator in that, and we might be able to get some more info out of that. But I pray to God Kelly's, and I think Kelly is a decent player as that lockdown defender. Right?
Well,
and in the first 3 or 4 weeks, we need one. We've had small forwards kick bags on us.
Yeah. So again, you look at the evidence and go, well, who we playing next week? Adelaide. They've got Rankin. They've got Rochelle.
Yep.
So we're going to need some sort of small defender.
Yep.
Pidge
and Laird went in there too.
Pidge always did well on Eddie Betts, I seem to recall. Maybe other than one or two.
You could match him for pace.
Probably later on it was better because Eddie was just old. But
Eddie was still pretty good when he was old.
He's one.
Did you see that at the gather round where he just snapped one from the pocket, just in the work shoes?
That man is a god.
Yeah,
he's no one has a better highlights reel than that guy.
He's got some talent.
Oh my god.
So let's hope that they go well. Kelly's obviously good at that. McGrath can hold to one of them because they're. I watched a bit of the game last night. They both rolled through the midfield a lot. I thought, and I thought I could see Laird, and I thought I definitely saw Dawson got pushed out of that midfield, and looked like Crouch and Laird were also pushed out a bit for different options like Berry and Rochelle and that. They still were in there, but their numbers, when you look at their fantasy numbers, were down a lot, those guys, and that's because they weren't at that CBA sort of numbers.
Yeah.
And they've had the win, so they're going to think that works.
Well, we'll talk about that game in a little bit, but it is nice that they got the win this week. I think it takes a little bit off us. All right, moving on into some game stats then. Not too much to write home about here, but we'll run through them anyway. -3 disposals. First time I reckon we've lost that disposal count for a long time. I keep meaning to check, but I do forget. Interestingly, though, +40 kicks. And
really?
we were -43 handballs, which symbolic of the way the Dogs play.
Yep.
But I would much rather be a kicking team than a handballing team. Given how the competition is at the moment, it's definitely a kick-centric comp. So
Yep.
happy with that stat. And we'll +8 on contested ball, which I think against a midfield with their quality is a really good one to be plus anything on. They did have one more inside 50 than us. +6 free kicks. Well, I think we'll hold our position at the top of the free kick differential ladder, which is bizarre.
There were a few dodgy ones
There
too.
were a few dodgy ones in the first
that
quarter
went our
in
way.
particular. Yeah.
I'm taking them though.
Yeah,
I'm taking them.
absolutely. We have enough of them against us.
Yep.
+12 hitouts, again, against a guy with very good tap ruck work. He's great. +6 clearances, all of those from centre clearances, even around the stoppages. +17 marks, but equal marks inside 50, so +17 marks between the arcs. And we had 10 tackles inside 50, which is also equal with the Dogs, but I thought that was worth noting as well. 10 seems like a lot. I don't know what the sort of average is for that stat, but
Well, just
it definitely feels like we're able to lock the ball inside our forward 50 now.
Yeah. Keeping them to 67 points, like as a defensive effort on a team with Ugelhagen and Norton and Bontempelli in the midfield, is a massive win right there. Like we talk about what we need to improve, and one of the things you and I talked about was we need to bring team scoring down.
And their
67
last three scores have been 115, 106, and 91. So
yeah, that's very impressive from us. Somehow, I don't understand, but
don't ask questions.
Don't ask questions. The numbers are there.
Roll with it.
Rolling.
Some other things to note, which completely nabbed from the AFL website, but I thought it was worth talking about. Dogs were ranked second for scores from defensive 50, which was obviously an area for concern for us in conceding those scores, with a +10 differential against their opponents, while we were ranked 16th with a -7.2 per game differential. Against the Dogs, we were +17 in that zone.
Turn that around.
So, huge when you look at it from the perspective of how much we struggled with that early on. And then 2, we're actually able to move it the other way now, which is nice in addition to being able to stop it. We touched on this a little bit earlier, but I wanted to talk about the defensive matchups. Excuse me.
Yep.
We watched it together, but separately.
That sounds weird, but yep.
We
watched it while we're on Zoom. Yep. There we go.
And we lamented this fact, although now in hindsight, it doesn't seem that big a deal. Mackay on Norton, tick for us. That worked well. Norton kicked one, I think, and didn't threaten in the air the way he does.
Yep.
I was okay with that matchup. Mackay had a good enough game against Norton, who's a very good forward. Ugelhagen on Laverde, on the other hand, not so much. First things first, Ugelhagen's a very, 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 very talented man. And
again, around that 50 game mark.
Yeah.
Just starting to really shine.
Unbelievable talent.
Is there a possibility we could get him out of the club?
Well, maybe. It costs us a lot.
He was a Bomber supporter, I'm pretty sure, as a kid.
Not sure a key forward's what we really need at the moment. I'd still be looking at another key back.
Take that talent, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Play him in the... Well, what we can do, we can get him, play him in the back line and play Mackay in the forward line, which you seem obsessed with.
I like where your head's at. Well, we were calling Ben Mackay Harry Mackay for most of the game.
I just call him Harry now because I keep getting it wrong. So I'll just... It's
too hard for Sam. He just gave up.
Yeah. For reference, only Nathan thinks we should play Ben Mackay forward. That's not me.
Hey,
me picking.
I just think that he's like at some stages in games he could go forward. I'm just saying it. I don't care.
And my point
judge
is,
me, people. Judge me.
Spend $800K a year on a defender to play him forward. Thank you very much.
I don't want to point out names like Hooker and.
But they were at the club already. We didn't bring them in for.
So that's the only reason we don't do it is because we're paying him because we got him to the club.
Yes.
Okay.
So you're wrong here. We never disagree, but you're just wrong.
Carlisle, he was another one that could do it.
The one, Ugelhagen Laverde. Laverde's not the man, not the option. Heart of a lion, competes with all his might, all his
skill of a mouse.
But he just can't do it. And there was at one point, I think it might have been, he was on Norton. When Norton kicked the goal, I'm pretty sure Laverde was on him. And then we might have swapped it round. Laverde's effort at a spoil didn't even reach Norton's elbow.
Shoulders. Yeah.
Like, sorry, bro.
He's got a. When I watched Verde, he's got this little sort of a tunneling technique of when he
just
goes to
body
score.
him.
He bodies them when they're jumping, and usually that doesn't. Sometimes it affects them, but not often. It just sort of gives them an extra little boost.
Or they get a free kick.
Or they get a free kick. So I just
Look,
watching him go.
we
"Oh,
won the
God."
game, so you
Yeah.
can't really be too harsh, too critical.
But we
Ugelhagen
won the
kicked
game, but
3
you still
goals to
can't just
2.
say everything's rosy.
No,
You don't
of
win
course.
games of
No,
football.
no,
game.
no, no,
Everything's
of
rosy.
course.
Everything's great. We'll go into it next week. No worries. But the bigger point is the last one you're going to bring up.
Well, I wanted to say, and we'll talk about this more later, I'm officially starting a bandwagon on Lewis Hayes, and I'm officially on Lewis Hayes' watch every week until
see
we
his
get
numbers?
Reed and Ridley back. I did, and we'll talk about it later.
Yeah, sorry.
The last
ahead,
one
sorry.
here, which was, as you say, the point of great concern,
Mm.
was Mason Redman on Sam Darcy. Redman's 187 centimetres, which is a short midfielder these days.
Well, and Redmond / Heppel, because Heppel was doing the
Yeah.
job too sometimes.
And
so just
Sam Darcy is 208 centimetres tall.
and I imagine has long arms.
For those of us that aren't mathematicians in the room, that's 21 centimetres difference.
Yep.
Now, again, it didn't cost us.
No.
Darcy took a few marks up the ground. He took a mark inside 50 where he was completely uncontested. I think that was one
I
of the
reckon he
ones
kicked a
where
goal or two.
Heppel just got lost. I believe he did kick 2, which I can stat
Because there was
check.
that one that Martin kicked it to him. Our
Yeah.
Martin kicked it.
No, but he passed that one off. He kicked 1 goal 3,
Oh, did he?
to be
I
fair,
thought he
so it
kicked
could
goal,
have hurt us a lot more than that.
Yep.
Again, it's purely through circumstance that we don't have Reed, we don't have Ridley, and the Dogs are huge in their forward line. But the counter side of that, and I think Luke Hodge talked about it on the commentary, was that once the ball hits the ground, we should be able to then escape fairly easily. And that whole plus 17 differential from scores from defensive 50 would suggest that we did. So there's 2 sides. I think that's still too much of a difference. Sam Darcy could just stand there, not even have to jump, and still outmark a bloke that's 21 centimetres shorter than him. But
yeah, and I would
I understand how that's came about.
I would then push that through to next week, obviously, with Fogarty and Walker. And, you know, they sometimes play, like, I know he hasn't been playing, that there's that other Ruckman / who's been injured for them, who might be back by next week. So, I mean, Fogarty and Walker aren't huge. So
we've got matchups for them at least.
Yeah. So it might work next week. But I don't like it.
No, I don't like it either. And then my other one there was Callie and Waitman, which we have spoken about, so we don't need to go back into that. Now, I do want to just toot our own horn here at the Dom Pod, if that's okay. If I could be asked, I would have gone back and found the sound clip and played it, but
we're not those people.
Not what we're about.
Effort. We're not those people that give effort.
We give effort. I just...
would have been effort.
Anyone who's ever edited a video before, it's just too hard.
Again, effort, people.
True, you're right, actually. At the end of last week's podcast for the Port Adelaide review, we talked about how the Bulldogs midfield might just suit us. Might just suit our midfield, and we might see a bit more of that centre clearance work that we saw before the Port Adelaide game, where we were one of, if not the best in the competition in that area.
Yep.
Now, did I envisage Sam Durham keeping Bontempelli in his back pocket? Absolutely not. But other than that, we smashed him. We had 6 clearances against Port Adelaide, 6 centre clearances, that is. We had 7 centre clearances in the first quarter against the Western Bulldogs. Now,
that's phenomenal.
You talk about talented midfields, and Port Adelaide definitely have a talented midfield, but so do the Western Bulldogs. Come on. Bont, Libba, McRae was back.
So what's the difference? Is it just Sam Durham
size.
comes in and makes that much difference? Or is it there's an attitude change? They're like...
I think it's going to be multifaceted, isn't it? I think Durham made a difference. I don't think he would have spared us too many blushes against Port Adelaide. I would have loved to have seen him run with Rosie or Butters.
Yep.
And, you know, it wasn't really a tag against Bont. I don't want to call it a tag, but
no, I don't
just
think it was
run
a tag
with
either.
In that way and see what
it was a matchup. I'd call it a matchup.
Yeah.
Like Caldwell was match on Liberatore, and I thought did very well too.
Libba had a game high 10 clearances, but
Yeah, but it wasn't
didn't seem
influential.
overly
Yeah.
influential.
No.
I would hope that we took a lot of lessons out of last week. I would hope that the ruckman, and it seems like they did kind of go, we were awful. We need to be better than that, and they were. I don't know. I just thought worth noting that we had one more clearance in one quarter than we had against Port Adelaide for an entire game of football. That's a big difference.
Oh, that's a massive difference, and I think it's probably
Trelaw as well. I didn't mention.
Well, Trelaw, he's also a pretty decent football player too. And what I found interesting, that first quarter, their young Sanders, who we noted was playing all right.
Big boy.
Yeah, socks up player too. Don't mind a socks up player.
And black
Respect
boots. Love it. Yes.
Socks up player, black boots. Respect that. He was playing all right in that first quarter, and then they benched him at the end of the second. I don't reckon he came back in on the third, or somewhere maybe in the third they benched him. And I was like, is that the guy you're sending to the bench? We're okay with that.
He only played 42% game time.
Yeah.
I know he was, Sanders was slapped a little bit by some media outlets about cracking the shits being subbed.
Understandably, he's quite a talented player, I don't think.
I get it, and he was good. There was times when I went, fucking hell, this guy's killing us, and he's a first-year player.
Yeah, he's playing his fifth game of football.
And he's built like a brick shithouse. I don't understand how you can be 18
beautiful physique,
and be that friggin' huge.
They built him big in Tassie.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, interesting one. And it was also worth noting when Bontempelli wasn't in the centre bounces, Durham was pretty much with Sanders too. So,
but like Sanders has been playing a half-back role too, and or not necessarily CBA role. He's been rolling off, and coming into clearances, not necessarily doing centre clearances. So, man, I know as a fantasy person that fantasy people hate Bevo because of he drops a guy like that who's, important to us all fantasy-wise. We've all got him. But he's also a good player. What he's done to Caleb Daniel, I think is fascinating. We talked about, is that someone we go after, that small defender who can kick really well? Is that a useful player for us? And I know he's a bit older, but the other, what's his name? The other midfielder he got subbed out a couple of weeks ago, been injured, came back a couple of weeks ago.
McRae.
Yeah, McRae. He got subbed out.
Well, he wasn't playing at the start of the year.
No, but his first game, I think, or second game, he got subbed. They do weird things with him. They take him out. They go play him up half forward when he should be just a midfielder. He's just a midfielder.
It is noted, though, that Caleb Daniel is in the twos because they're putting him into a new role, and they want him to learn that new role in the VFL, which make of that what you will, but at least there's an explanation. There's a reason. Bulldogs are the biggest waste of talent in the AFL right now.
They've beaten the coast.
And
they've been West Coast and Gold
years.
Coast at the moment, and they play St Kilda, and who I think will do them next week. And they will be then out of finals contention and gone.
A bit early for that, but they're going to struggle.
If they've lost to us, if they lose to St Kilda,
losing to us isn't that bad. Come on.
Yeah, but I'm saying that you've got to win your 12 plus games or 13 games to get around the that 8th position. That's even just getting to the 8. So being good, you've got to get to 14 games. So if you're not beating teams like us, and then I don't look at the start of the year, I think we would have both comfortably said St Kilda, Bulldogs, and Adelaide, who we're playing next week, are all in that 7 to 10 bracket of where they'll end in the ladder. That would be a fair.
Dogs would have been expecting top 6.
Yeah, 6. Adelaide would have been expecting top 6 or 7. They should have been in the 8 last year, except for a bad decision. And St Kilda were in the 8 last year. So
good
that's
point.
what I'm saying. These teams are all that are about vying for the same spot. Now, if they're losing, no offense, again, to us, who came 4th last or whatever we did last year, they're like, well, where are we at this year?
Well, can I flip that on you right now then?
Yeah.
And say we've lost 2 games. We've lost to Port Adelaide, who are certainly top 4
for the year. They will
candidates and what they would be expecting.
Yep.
And Sydney, who a little bit of shine been taken off them, but
they're still top 4.
They're still top 4 hopefuls, right? We've lost to them, and we got flogged by Port, but we had an okay game against Sydney, barring some glaring issues.
And both of them were home games for those teams.
So how does that reflect on us then? Are we too critical here on ourselves?
Well, that's the question that time will tell.
Yes. Well, time will
I
answer
think
all
because
these questions.
because Adelaide will be the next answer. If we're competitive against Adelaide, say, and even scrub over a win, then all of a sudden hopes will rise because if we beat Adelaide in Adelaide, that's a big win.
I think there's two big challenges in the next 2 weeks. Adelaide in Adelaide, just winning interstate. I don't care that Adelaide are 1-4.
They're
That's
still a good team at home.
irrelevant.
I don't. Yeah, I
They've
agree.
got
It's got
talent.
nothing to do with it. Yep.
And then
And they've
Anzac
had the win
Day,
this week, so they might have worked themselves out.
we're going to go into Anzac Day on par with Collingwood at worst because of their poor start to the season,
Mm-hmm.
and have a test in front of 90,000 people. And
Yep.
I don't care what you say, playing in front of crowds, whatever. That's a big, big, big day and a big crowd, and it says a lot. And we've lost so many in the last however many years because Collingwood are just such a better club at the moment.
Yep.
So huge test. Anyway,
And that's what my point is. That time after the Collingwood game, that's when I think we'll know more. Because if we're competitive against Adelaide and either win or lose by a couple of kicks, we go, hey, we're all right. If we get flogged by Adelaide, we'll go, I just still don't know where we're at. And then we'll go to Collingwood and we'll go, well, if we are competitive or beat Collingwood, then I think, yes, we're a really good side.
well, and we're still not sure about Collingwood at this point, though.
No, but still to beat Collingwood.
Yeah, the
at
day
the
itself
MCG,
is big, but
that's
we're
right.
not sure about the opponent right at this point in time.
No, but to beat them on that day is a big win.
We could lose every game for the rest of the year. I'd be happy if we just beat Collingwood on Anzac Day.
I agree. But I'd like to win that and a few others.
Oh, yeah, I would prefer it.
Let's be selfish.
Prefer it. But this is the thing. I said it last week when I was watching that first quarter against Port Adelaide. I'm sitting there going, geez, we're okay here. Like, we're competitive against a bloody good side away from home.
Yep.
And then we just absolutely bent over. Moving on, because we're getting far ahead of ourselves here.
Yes.
I feel like we've talked enough about sort of the start of the game and how we won it and that sort of thing. But what was impressive for me was the fact the Dogs were well on top for the first part of that second quarter, and we were sitting there going, "Oh, we're shit. We're still struggling. They're going to run away with this." They won the first 6 clearances of the second quarter for 2 goals, 3. Not all directly from those clearances, but just while they were on top, they managed 2 goals, 3. Right, and we were like, well. Some of them were gettable, some of them weren't. But we had that St Kilda thing again where we're still not on the scoreboard. Yeah. All right.
We dodged a bullet.
And then towards the end of the second quarter, Duursma kicks that one from outside 50, which if I ever see that man want to pass the football again, I'll crack the shits because
Shout at
he
him.
nailed
No.
it. We go back to the middle, win the ball out of the clearance. Stringer kicks that snap goal from the pocket. And then a couple of minutes later, Langford kicks a snap. And we're 7 points in front at half time. And you go,
and from their quarter, from a quarter where they dominated for 15, 20 minutes and we had 10 minutes of good footy and got in front.
And this is where being able to score from centre stoppages is huge. Yeah. Because it's not just the goal on the board or anything like that. It's a momentum killer. If your opposition kicks one, and we've had it against us, Port Adelaide did it. We kicked a goal, they went straight centre clearance, kicked a goal, and you go, for fuck's sake. It's just so deflating for the opposition. Yeah. But if you can do it on the back of one of your own goals, it's double.
Well, it takes me back to that Melbourne Bulldogs grand final when in the third quarter, Melbourne came out and just did that time and time again.
Yeah.
And the Dogs their heads dropped and went, we're gone. And the Dogs were winning that game at that point.
Yeah, they were well ahead of that game.
Yeah, and Melbourne just went on it. I don't think there was a period there where the Dogs didn't touch the ball.
Yeah. That was one of the more incredible 10 minutes of football I've ever seen. That's the extreme.
But if you can do that, though, that's our point, isn't it? That our point
is match winning. It's match changing.
You can change the momentum so quickly.
And I think
the team can't do anything about it. They can't get the ball back. There's no opportunity for them to get the ball back.
And we've seen enough to go, right, well, there's 3 main areas where we're conceding scores here. It was transition.
Yep.
Then it was Port Adelaide. It was a combination of centre clearances, they killed us, and turnovers.
Yep.
If we fix 2 out of 3 of those things, we're actually okay. So we've managed to fix our transition against Port, but they killed us on centre clearance and turnover.
Yep.
We managed to fix the transition and the centre clearances against the Bulldogs. Majority of their goals came from turnovers, right? But we still won pretty comfortably in the end.
Yep.
So it's not just centre clearance, but geez, it's a weapon. It's
No.
a big thing to have. And when we've
Yep.
been critical of someone like Darcy Parish for how he delivers the ball inside 50, you get all this stuff about Sam Durham and how he beat Bontempelli and all that. And you look at his 2 kicks inside 50 from a centre clearance,
Beautiful.
and they
Yeah.
hit someone lace out both times. Oh, it's just...
And just to be on that, like, I mean, I don't want to. There are some negatives I think we'll probably get to, but Parrish's form is
Yeah, I've got
is-
him noted down to talk
as
about.
ordinary. Like he and I know. I don't care for people saying that, oh, well, we don't really need him. I think he's still a valuable player. If he can find form and Durham keeps doing what he's doing, then I think that then we become a real weapon in that midfield. In that, I think guys like Shield, VFL for the rest of your team time at Essendon, like you become a backup player because he's not required at all.
I've got both of those things on my list, so
All right,
we'll come back to that. That's okay.
I'll just check ahead.
It's all perfectly valid. I just...
Don't see
We're trying to keep a flow. And who would have thought natural conversation
ruins it all.
takes over. Dogs didn't kick a goal from the 8-minute mark of the third quarter until the 22nd minute mark of the fourth quarter. So again, stopping a very good team from scoring at all is big ticks. And to illustrate the point of the clearance game, we scored 19 of our 31 points in the fourth quarter from stoppages. And we kicked the 5 goals won in the fourth quarter. And when Stringer kicked the 5th and our final goal of the game in the fourth quarter, there was still 10 and a half minutes left. We kicked 5 goals won in 9 and a half minutes.
Yep. Phenomenal.
Speechless. Holy shit.
There was a moment there when Stringer kicked that goal. There was a few minutes after he just hit Libba with a beautiful...
Now, first and foremost, Libba, we do hope is okay, and that.
But we love Libba. He's a
falling
great football
over
player.
was.
I love his tattoos. I love the little Simpson one he's got. Yeah, and cracks me up. Those tattoos.
One of the more concerning things you can see on a football ground is a bloke just falling over like that and passing out, fainting, whatever it was. But Jesus, Jake, that hit, he lined him up.
And came at speed too. He wound up the legs.
I think I startled you. We were sitting here just watching it, and I got a bit excited.
Yep.
Just bang. And
but there's
the best thing, fully legal.
Yep.
There's no head hit. He had the footy. It was a purely legal.
And then it was the tackle forced the kick to go straight to Duursma,
who kicked the goal.
Kicked the goal. Yeah, it was beautiful. And then moments later, Stringer kicks that goal and he walks past with this grin. I don't know if you've seen the slow footage of it, like just looking at Libba going, and all the Bobber boys are rubbing him on the head going,
shush the crowd.
Yep.
Oh, it was Jakey's world in that fourth quarter.
There'd be a little text. I imagine they're mates, and I imagine there'd be some texting going on between.
Stringer was interviewed after the game saying, I'm pretty sure Libba wanted to line me up too. So I'm sure they're good mates. But
I'm sure that, yep.
Yeah. Jakey.
I love Jakey Stringer. He's one of the guys that brings so much joy to me. The way he goes about the game, and I know he can be really frustrating when he's not on, but when he's on, there are a few players that can go with him. There's no defenders that go with him. No. There's midfielders that have to put midfield. He's just big and strong, and he kicks from outside 50, he kicks from the boundary line. And
he's infectious.
Yeah.
He shit stirs the crowd. He shit stirs his opponent. He celebrates...
Yep. He hurts.
Stars Libba. It really there's a 5-minute patch in that fourth quarter where it really was just his world. We were just living in it. It was
and
great to see because I didn't know what we'd get from him this year. I hope we never give him anything more than a 1-year deal. If we could give him month by month deals, I would be supportive of that.
Sam has a theory that he plays his best footy.
It's
on
not
his
just
contract
me.
year.
That is internet folklore. The 1-year deal. Stringer in a contract year is better than any other player ever. Moving on to some socials. Again, Facebook, we do a post. If you want to get involved, drop us a follow there. Jess Exton said, Harry Jones has been building each week. He's marking, taking the ball to ground and kicking goals. It's good to see. His confidence is growing huge. Good point there that even if he's not marking the ball, he's competing and bringing it to ground at the very least, which is a big tick.
And it's something we're taught as juniors, as tall forwards, that if you can't mark it, you get the ball to ground. Halve the contest. That's Key to football.
Very minimum
Halve the contact.
expectation. Don't
Yeah.
lose it. Yep, correct. Matt Crawls, to go to a game against three massive key forwards with basically one key defender in Mackay was a massive tick in team defence and work rate to get back. Again, great point in that it's not just that back six. It is about the midfield and how the ball's coming in. Duz was huge. We had some patches where the forward line applied a heap of pressure at ground level, and to think about how do we get Tamita Peter back in there, it's a good headache to have. Absolutely. And I want to mention Davey Jr., who had barely any stats, but again was just harassing. He gave away a free kick at one point where I said to you, I don't care. The next time that Bulldogs player gets the ball, he's going to be packing bricks because he thinks Davey Jr. is right there.
And just on that, it's a really valid point from Matt that the forward pressure was there that I don't think had been there for other weeks. I think that was
just from the smalls as well.
No. I think that was like we talked about Jones tackling. Like got the free kick for that, and there were a few others. And even I'll give it to Draper, who was doing he probably could learn to handball. We could probably
need to mention Draper needs to handball. We definitely missed at least one.
There was a moment where he tried to kick it. I don't understand. And
we had three blokes running into an open goal, and Sammy just handball.
But our forward pressure was excellent, and I think that's something I rate that as something we've been shit at for a few years. And if Davy Jones in the team brings that, then he stays in the team. Oh, sorry, Davy Jones.
That's the thing out of Pirates, isn't it?
Davy Jones. I meant Davy and Jones, like guys that are doing that sort of stuff. But I like Davy Jones.
We should ship them.
Yeah. So I probably still question marks having Menzies. I don't.
Yeah.
Is it Menzie?
Menzie, it's just Menzie, I think.
Menzie,
yeah, definitely.
Question marks having Menzie.
Particularly where we got a little bit more out of Davy Jr., who really I was critical of the fact he was in the team at all because he had no VFL form.
Yeah, and in the first quarter, he fumbled a couple of balls. And
but he did enough. He did enough. He turned the ball over
He worked his way into the game.
He managed to intercept the ball in the middle and then gave it straight back to them. That was frustrating. But I can live with that from a kid. Yep. Not that Menzie's old by any stretch of the imagination, but just...
Is there an exciting world where him and Jaden are both in that forward pocket role?
Jaden has more form than freaking Menzie at this point.
The footage I've seen of Jaden is exciting. But... you could assume that if Jaden plays good footy, I didn't see his numbers in the VFL, but if he plays some good footy over the next few weeks, and if Menzie's shoulder didn't look very good, it looked like a bit painful, then I would love to see. How excited would those two brothers be playing together? Anzac Day. Dreamtime at the G. Dreamtime at the G, the two Davey brothers.
I feel like it's been a while since we've actually had Indigenous guys in the Dreamtime at the G match as well. So
yeah, that'd be exciting.
Anyway,
just a real strength and a great point by Matt. I don't think we've probably hammered that one home enough that that was a real strength of ours for the game.
I do pick these comments for a reason. I try not to pick things we've already talked about. I think, that's a good point, and I like to give credit when people give us stuff to talk about. So, and finally, our boy Phil, who I'm paraphrasing his words here, he gushed a lot about Durham, Jones, Goldstein, Draper, Duursma, and Mackay. But the bit I want to talk about particularly, and this is what you touched on earlier, Nathan, he said, could go on about our players. They all played well. However, I am a little worried about DP3. Doesn't seem his usual self so far this season. And it's a good segue into us being able to talk about Das because, again, with the win, you try and focus on what went well.
But you still got to look at what's going wrong. He had a team high, 5 tackles. He managed 4 clearances. But...
it's
his kicking just looks worse.
And it doesn't help when, again, Durham is able to just do these lace-out phenomenal passes. He's just not quite himself. He went at 59% disposal efficiency.
That feels about right.
And it's been the knock on him for a long time. I'm not even worried about that. He's not getting the football.
No, his numbers are down. So what I find weird is that in the preseason, all we read and all we saw, and then we saw it in the practice game, how fit he was and how good he was. He was looking in, and then in that Geelong practice game, was that our second one? No, I can't remember. He hurt his hamstring and missed the first 2 or 3, whatever weeks, 2 weeks. And since he's come back into that, he just doesn't look like he doesn't look quick. He doesn't run properly. His disposals are down. His kicking's down. Something doesn't look right. Hopefully, it's just one of those things. He's had he's missed a little bit of footy, just getting a bit of continuity back. That a bit of footy will get that back, and we can start because he's a very valuable player in our team. I don't care what it was. When he's up and about, he's as handy as anyone to have.
He's one of the ones where you go, well, he's playing.
Hmm.
There's not a question mark over his spot in the team or anything like that. But
No.
we know how not how damaging, but how good he is.
Well, how
How
damaging
much
he
he
is in
can
the
win the
midfield,
football.
the clearance.
And yeah, how many times he can get that first handball out that sets us off.
Yeah.
It's in a way, it's good for the team because we've been able to be this number one team in the comp in centre clearances without him having a massive impact on it.
Well, we're winning games of football without Ridley, without Wright,
Without Reed, which structurally matters.
Yeah, which is important. And I don't know, I'm not going to say Shield because I don't think he's in that team anymore.
No.
Without Parish playing good football, even Merritt had a lot of the footy, but it wasn't.
He's pretty quiet. Yeah,
he's pretty quiet. Like he just does Merritt things. He still gets his 25 and rolls around being happy little bugger, tackling people when he needs to.
Merritt things.
But it was.
Did you find it awkward?
This is the evolution of our team. These other guys have to start improving and getting up to the level of our normal good players.
It still is interesting with DP3 that if he'd left, that would have been doomsday for us.
Wow, I think it would have been a cultural problem.
And hindsight now, you go, oh, well, I guess we could have covered it after all.
No, that's not the attitude.
I know it's not the attitude, but it's just interesting that we're performing as well as we are in that specific area, barring the Port Adelaide game, without him having a massive impact. So big tick, but just question mark on the player.
Because one of the things I really like about Durham is that he's a guy that, if he develops into an elite midfielder, he's a guy that can go forward and be very damaging because he's a great overhead mark. Like we've seen that the Richmond game,
and he's agile.
Yeah, but he can take a pack mark. Like he can kick goals. Like I wouldn't say any of our midfielders, Parish, Merritt.
Caldwell seems to be the only one that really hits the scoreboard.
Well, Caldwell plays a lot of
he's
gets
a
pushed
forward.
Yeah. Well, none of them are real goal kickers. Whereas Stuz, I really think he can be that guy who could kick 20 goals and average 20 plus possessions.
Yes, hopefully.
Yeah,
I
hopefully,
want to
of course.
mention one more moment from watching game of football with you because I think it's important the listeners get to know us as people. And you come across as quite a well-spoken individual when we speak, I think, yeah. I listened back and realised how bogan my voice sounds. So, yeah, I reckon you sound pretty good. I want to take you back to the moment. I think it was in the third quarter where we were streaming forward and Jay Gresham got the football. Now, I don't want to hang shit on Jay Gresham here. He's been very good as an acquisition. It was just a moment where he would like back, I'm sure. Had three of our players running inside 50 and just played on and decided that he wouldn't pass to any of them and got tackled and we lost possession of the ball. I won't tell you what Nathan said. I will tell you that it lasted for at least 2 minutes and I had a headache after it.
Oh, I didn't think it was that bad.
I've never seen a man so angry in my life.
Oh, I can't handle that. Well, it was funny. I rewatched the second half yesterday just because I thought, I should watch that again. It was good to see us have a win. And that moment popped up and the commentator, one of the special commentators, I can't remember which one, said, he had nothing to kick to up the ground.
Yes, I picked up on that when I watched the replay. I'm like, he had three blokes 40 out.
Three blokes. He could have just done a chip. Didn't have to kick it 50.
Didn't even
he could have handballed it 3 times. Seriously, he just went, no, I'll just do a Yui. I'll do another Yui. I'll step around 3 or 4 blokes. Watch me here. Step around. Oh, hang on, I'm being tackled. What do I do now? Oh, fuck, the ball's gone.
I watched it again and had PTSD. I could hear your words.
There was a lot of C-bombs and F-bombs. And
C-bomb was definitely the theme of the... It's quite funny.
Oh, geez, it pissed me off. When you've got momentum like that, you're all streaming forward and someone just thinks... It's old first option footy. Go get the handball off. Get the hand. Don't. Oh, second. Weigh it all up and see what's going on.
Again, not a go or anything at Jay Gresham. Just
no. It was just me.
Quite humorous because I don't think I've ever watched football with you either in the room or like this. And
I was when I played footy. It was it was in the 90s. And it was first option. It was break packs. It was old school footy. And I still think a lot of I'm fascinated when I watch players not shepherd. Like I'm going, why wasn't he shopping? Why doesn't he shepherd and let the guy that's got the ball running forward kick the ball? Why do you have to get the ball and then give it back to him? Why don't you just fucking shepherd? Like seriously,
it is funny because
what's happened to the fucking shepherd?
I really appreciate when guys shepherd now, and I think it comes from that it's not a normal thing anymore.
Yeah, you say, oh, he shepherd. Shepherd, for fuck's sake, line him up, bump him.
Before I go into the votes, I left you after the game finished. I wasn't overly well and decided to go to bed.
Kept pooing himself, people.
Thanks.
Didn't deny it.
Oh, I had gastro, like slightly. Not pleasant. But anyway, did you see the trophy presentation after the game that seemed to even surprise Fox Footy that was happening?
Yeah, I did.
Bizarre to have a trophy, not a best on ground medal. And I get why the
I didn't even
Whitten Cup, but it was just a bit awkward.
But what's EJ Whitten got to do with us?
Well, it's Bulldogs. It's their home game. It's their thing.
Yeah,
but we won.
Why
it.
us?
I don't know. We won it, didn't we?
But we've got nothing. Normally, there's a like if you think of. Yeah,
I thought it was awkward watching Zach Merritt carry off a cup that, again, with all respect to EJ Whitten and what he did for football, means absolutely nothing to us as a football.
Do we get to keep the cup, or do we have to hand it back?
I'm guessing it's perpetual. Looks like it's got the little shield thing, the engraving.
Yeah, fair enough. We'll give that
just
back
odd.
in a couple of years.
Normally, with that sort of game, you get the best on ground medal, and that makes sense to me.
Yeah, well, like Anzac and
Anzac Day, Dreamtime.
Yeah,
there's another one. There's a police one. The Hawthorn and someone playing that one.
Yep.
Anyway, odd, but we won a trophy, so
yeah,
cop that.
We've got something in our silverware cabinet.
Yeah, one more than Carlton. Let's go into the votes. So I'm going to do the listeners' one first. John Farnsworth tipped Essendon by 30 points. There was 2 Essendon by 30 points, but John got in first. Now, John did tell me he doesn't get to watch football because he lives in the Philippines shortly after sending through his votes. So,
well done, John.
I'm not quite sure how he's come up with the votes, but
they're pretty good.
Now, we gave Merritt 3. That's my big question mark because
he's probably just looked at the stats. That's okay.
I'm just saying, I don't know. Number 2 votes to Harry Jones and 1 vote to Big X Duursma. So thank you, John. Again, game day, we'll do a post on Facebook. If you get closest to the pin, you get to give us your votes. Me and you and I, in fact, the same. So you can't yell at me this week.
No. You got it right.
So you got it right. You gave Harry Jones 1 and so did I. Again, just building on form and great to see. I gave Duursma 2 and so did you. Hard to ignore. He led all comers for fantasy points, was just everywhere. And then, touched on earlier, pretty clear best on ground.
Yeah.
Sammy Durham with 3. It is nice. We talked about, maybe even last week, that we should just give Zach Merritt the votes every week and just not even do it. So it is nice immediately that
he didn't even get one from us. Yeah.
Had a game where we didn't give him votes, and that's not deliberate.
No, it was just who we thought was impressive.
The most impactful on the game. So,
yep.
I think Zachy Merritt might still be leading the vote, but we'll tally that up at the end of the year in my fancy new spreadsheet.
I still probably think you'll win it.
I love the spreadsheet. Oh.
Bad man.
Around the grounds, we've harped on about Western Bulldogs enough and their shortcomings. It was lovely to see the Carlton Football Club get done yesterday, albeit against the team we're playing next week. But that's okay. What's happened to my computer? Sorry. Brisbane upsetting Melbourne at the G Thursday night. That was interesting. Brisbane, you'd suggest.
Well, Melbourne looked ordinary.
And they've been very good. They beat Port in Port.
Yeah. So that was a real surprise. Brisbane looked good. Everything worked for them. Their forwards were playing well. Their midfields were dominating. Look, Oliver he is so out of form.
He's had finger surgery, I believe.
Yeah, he's been wearing a glove the last few weeks. And sorry,
he'll be out next week. So they reckon he'll be back for
they got the bye.
Eve. Oh, do they?
That's why he probably won't play next week, man.
Oh, the way they were wording it suggests they play next week. But anyway, they expect to get him back for the Anzac Eve.
You know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I don't. I just work here. GWS and St Kilda. It was great games yesterday. 1 point, 2 point, and 3 point margins across 3 of the 4 games. The GWS St Kilda one was interesting, although at the end GWS were just walking wounded.
They'd had a few players go off, and
Sam Taylor knock was awful.
He even got the shake, like went up.
Not good.
That was bad.
But he was okay. He was alert in hospital and all that, so that's good to see. But yeah, really, they were 6 goals up, and then St Kilda come from nowhere, but just fell short, which is interesting in itself, especially when I don't liken Ross Lyon coached teams to being able to score 6 goals in a quarter of football. So.
No, and I still think, like, you still look at it, they still only scored 79 points for the game. It's just not enough. They need to find.
Took a 6-goal run.
Yeah, that's right. They were fuck all at 3/4 time. Like, it was 30 points less. So they were 40 something at 3/4 time. It's just they can't score. And Ben, what's King? Is he Ben King? The other one? No, which one's King? I don't know. Whichever King plays for St Kilda.
I think it's Max.
He hurt his knee. I don't know if he came back on in the last quarter.
No, he didn't come back on.
Yeah, so that might be more serious than it was let on. So
I hope not.
That would be damaging to them.
Yeah. As I said, Adelaide beating Carlton was fantastic. 46,000 people at Marvel, which I didn't remiss me not to mention earlier. 50,000 at our game is the biggest. First time 50,000 at Marvel for an AFL game in 11 years.
Yep.
So that's huge. I didn't expect that, to be honest.
Saad did his hamstring in that
Saad
game
did his
too.
hammy, which I'm not going to celebrate. Injuries.
No, I'm not celebrating that. They're a pretty full list, Carlton. Like there's Wiedering, sorry, not Wiedering. He's been back for a while. Sam
Walsh.
Walsh came back this week. He
barely
dominated. Yeah, barely. It's phenomenal how he comes back first games and just
But
flies.
they also lost their other big, McGovern, to a hamstring. So
did they? I didn't see that. Yeah.
Again, I was looking at the schedule going, geez, when do we play him? I don't want to beat half-assed teams, but if we're going to lose to Carlton, I'll take the pill a lot better if there's no Adam Saad in that team.
Yeah, true. Well, yeah, but they might struggle the next few weeks. I don't know who they have, but they've...
Oh, I saw this open.
And then the Suns flogged.
Flogged Adelaide. Hawthorn, sorry, my bad. Carlton play GWS next week at Marvel. I'm actually thinking about going to that because Collingwood play Port at the G at 1:45 and then Carlton and GWS at Marvel. And now I'm living in the big smoke. I can go to these games.
Do you live in the big smoke?
Well, close enough. It's a lot closer than I was. I can be home by friggin' 8 o'clock.
Yeah, that's true. That'll be a great game, actually. I'll definitely be trying to watch that game, GWS and Carlton. That'll be a humdinger because GWS will have a few players. Humdinger. GWS will... Caniglio definitely won't be playing.
No,
Taylor won't be playing.
Taylor can't play.
No. And I reckon there was another injury in that for GWS. Kelly had
Kelly saw ribs. Toby Green seemed to hurt himself at the end. I don't know how bad that was.
Yeah.
But Collingwood and Port at the G as well shapes up as a pretty interesting clash.
Couple of good games. Friday night for us.
I will just say, Fremantle fans, I feel sorry for you. You must have PTSD anytime someone mentions Adelaide Oval now. That was rough. It was rough last week. It was rough this week. Moving swiftly along. For us next week, we go back to Adelaide. Seems harsh to go Adelaide, Melbourne, Adelaide. But anyway, I know that non-Victorian team supporters would tell us to strap on a pair, and that's fair enough.
Make it right.
1 win from 5. Definitely not where they would expect to be. And I wrote this before they beat Carlton. I just assumed that they would lose to Carlton, in case you're wondering there, Nate.
But the stat that I find fascinating about the Crows this year is that they were the number 1 attacking team last year and are now the 18th team this year. Yeah, so that's fascinating change. And a lot of that's like Tex Walker's been well out of form and, Rochelle and the other one haven't scored much. Rankin haven't scored many goals. So, yeah, it'd be fascinating.
In terms of our prospectus, is that the right word? So we lost to Footscray and a curtain raiser on Friday night. We were leading up until halftime, I think, and then they just ran over the top. There were notable performances. We had a couple of good players, but they were VFL listed, so I have chosen not to include them in this conversation because it's just moot. Our boy Nick Bryan, 13 touches and 39 hit outs.
How many?
39.
39 hit-outs.
Now, there's
For the
less of
love
a
God.
call this week because both Draper and Goldstein were fine, were great, in fact. But
39 hit-outs, Sam. That's
it's a
fucking every ball up. You're just hitting. You're the one hitting it. Ugh.
I fully accept Caddy is not on the fringe at this point in time, but kicked 1 goal, 2 and took 5 marks. So just solid. That's perfectly fine. Contributing.
I love the way you got Shield played question mark exclamation.
Shield played?
Shield played?
I'm hoping for his sake he was on limited minutes.
Because of the
he had
18
touches and didn't seem to do much in any other statistic.
No.
But I don't know where to find that information on.
He certainly can't come into the senior team.
Oh,
There's
God, no, he's miles off.
Yeah, if he jumps into the senior team next week, I don't know what to say.
I hope to Christ that we say to Dylan Shield at the end of the year, where do you want to go? We'll get it done. Fourth round pick, I don't care. Just send him off to a team that can use him and he can play football. Don't care. And finally, as I mentioned earlier, I am officially starting a Lewis Hayes fan club. I've learned his name this week. I'm not going to call him Lemmy.
How come you get to start it when I feel like I'm the one who brought him to you?
Well, because I write the script.
And it's fair enough. You do that.
10 marks and 22 touches. Again, reiterate, he's 199 centimetres. And honestly, barring the size in terms of strength difference, he can't be any worse than Laverde.
Well, no, I don't think that's even the right way to put it. I think he's a better option than Laverde. And I would say that okay, so the matchups this week would be Tex Walker, Mackay will get him. That's
for sure.
Good matchup for us.
Yep.
So the other one is a big unit, but not overly tall.
Fogarty.
In Fogarty, yeah. So is that I get that? You look at that and you think, well, that's a better matchup for Laverde. But is that the opportunity you bring in Lewis Hayes and say, look, you got height over him, he'll be out muscling you, but when do you bring him in? Next week we've got Collingwood.
I think once we get Ridley back, that chance is gone. So if we're going to bring him in, the next month or so, or however long Ridley's out for, because he's freaking hurt himself again.
Well, he's out for a while,
the opportunity.
Actually. Yeah.
Whether or not you can do that against a forward line that, as you say, has Tex Walker and Fogarty, who are bigger bodies, I can see the point in saying, well, we don't want to risk him against a stronger opposition in that way.
Yeah, but you would have picked him
against just to get pantsed.
You would have picked him against the Dogs to play on Darcy. Because at 199 centimetres, playing on Darcy at 208, at least you go, well, there's a matchup.
It's close.
And that would have freed Redmond to play on someone closer to his own. He wasn't banging into their dick when he was running around. Seriously, he was that far off him.
Interesting way to put it, yeah.
Wow, he's a lot shorter.
I understand why he's not in the side, is my point. But he's consistently leading the game for marks, and he's getting 20 to 25 touches every game.
So he's doing something right in the
really
VFL.
Is just like a taller Ridley.
Yeah, and you have to ask yourself, at what stage does he push in? And there's no perfect matchup. There's no perfect. That's my point. Is it?
But there might not be ever. Yeah,
that's right. There's not someone who's going to roll in. Oh, that's to me, it could have been the Dogs because they had 3 talls. So Adelaide got 2 talls. So
you could mount a case to say Hayes on Ugle-Hagan.
Yeah,
because Ugle-Hagan, I'm sure he'd be stronger because he's played more football, but he's leaner and he's just tall. He doesn't have that size.
And the way he marks the ball is he's not trying to out wrestle as much. He's trying to run and jump.
Yeah, valid point. Anyway, if you want to join the Hayes fan club, details.
The other thing about Hayes too, I'll mention, is that he's played every game last year and so far played every game this year. So he's durable.
Dependable. He'll definitely come in and get injured then.
Well, I mean, there's a point for that. I just want that, a durable 199 centimetre defender. Play him.
And the biggest thing, the biggest argument I could make for Laverde or Hayes is it's bloody competition for spots. Yeah. If Lav just knows he's playing, again, I understand that he fights harder than anyone on that team. He's just not good enough. But you want competition for spots.
Yep.
So make Laverde need to play for his spot rather than going, well, Reed's out for the next month, so I've got my spot.
Yeah. And on the flip side of that, we brought Davey in without any form in the VFL. He hadn't played good football in the VFL, and that worked. Whereas this guy's playing good football in the VFL, so why doesn't he get a senior's berth?
Yes, totally agree. Kids just run past with a green bin, like a proper council-issued bin. He's just running down the street with it. It was bizarre.
You live in a weird area, buddy.
Yeah. Yes. I was going to make another point then, but I've got distracted by the kid with the bin. We might wrap it there then for this week.
Tip for next
Before
week?
we do, I'll get a tip. I'm going to stick with tipping the opposition because it seems to be working okay for me.
That's your luck, is it?
Yep. Adelaide by 6 points.
I'll go Bombers by 12.
You say that every week. Are you going to change it? If we win by 12, are you going to change it?
No, not
So
until we win by 12.
So I don't even need to ask you. It's just Essendon by 12.
Bombers by 12. 2 goals every week. We'll win.
All right. I'll be interested to know when the last time we won by 12 points exactly was.
You can do. People do the research, or Sam.
I'll
It's
do
not
the
going to be
research.
me.
That's easy to research. Some things are easy, some things aren't, and it surprises me what is easy and what's not. I cannot for the life of me find score sources. That's why I have
Apparently,
to do it myself
editing
every week.
videos is also impossible.
Yeah, and this one's going to be a bitch because we had to stop before, which I'm sure the people will pick up because I had a grocery delivery. And then I had my child come in.
Oh, parenting life.
I know.
Just gets in the way of footy.
Honestly, she's such a great kid. She's just watching Paw Patrol and she's come in once. Like it's completely fine. But
Sam's a good parent, everyone.
I am. I'm a fantastic dad. She loves me.
Let's move on. This is getting weird.
It's not getting weird at all.
This spot it is.
Thank you for tuning in. We appreciate your audience. If you're on YouTube, hit subscribe. It would mean a lot. If you're not on YouTube, but you can go to YouTube and hit subscribe, that would also mean a lot. And we'll chat to you next week. Go Dons.
Go Bombers.